All right. Pardon that because I do see that we are now streaming live. Okay, let's grow. This is growth and development, guys. You are now listening to Sean Bryant East coming live to you by way of leadership. By way of leadership. It is definitely a pleasure to be with you this morning in this space where pandemic is resurgent and coronavirus appears to be on the rise yet again. We are going to move into a space where we're going to see a proliferation again of a lot of people on Zoom, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. Now, what happens in these spaces is that people are trying to do two things, sometimes three: entertainment, education, and motivation. As a provider of services, we generally tap into three places heavily, primarily: education, entertainment, and motivation. However, in this new space, in this new economy where people are uncertain where their next check is going to come from, now we're beginning to look at the economic aspect of it. So it's going from entertainment, or it's inclusive. So what's being introduced and what is being introduced economically with education, motivation, and entertainment is economic viability. People are looking for an economy, and some people are desperate. Some people are desperately looking for economy. So when coronavirus began, I began to speak to people about ways that they could take their expertise, their leadership, their experience, their skills, traits, talents, and all of this online as opposed to being offline. So now there comes a point where this content or this resurgence has to be curated because we have a proliferation of people providing services that just might not be, they have the confidence but they might lack the competence, or they might have the competence but they lack the confidence, one or the other. Very rarely are the two intertwined or enmeshed. And when that happens, you have a dip in quality of services. So you have an abundance of quantity. So if you've been online recently, you've probably been getting a lot of messages, a lot of sponsored messages, a lot of advertisements, and people pushing services. The question becomes, are these services quality services, especially in the space of professional services, coaching, consulting, mentorship primarily? One of the things that we hear as coaches, so I'm an executive coach by education and graduation, um, master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology, specialization was evidence-based coaching. What we have is a lot of people saying, I'm this, I'm that, and providing services based on a statement. And while the heart means well, and while the intention may be good, the outcome may not be just as good because a lot of people don't really understand what they're doing or really understand what coaching really is. So I wanted to share a little bit of light to that point or to that effect so that those people who are looking to have impact can have impact and at the same time make a good impression for the community, because we are a community of providers, whether online, offline, whether we know each other or not. If I perform a service that is not up to standard, then the next person down the line who states that they're a coach is looked at a certain kind of way because I came in the name of coaching and I did something that might have been not so much unethical, but it may have been too. Not so much unethical, but just not competent. Just not competent. Not standards, not up to standards. So when the next person comes, it reflects on them poorly, and they're looked at a certain kind of way because of the prior presentation that I made or the prior impression that I made. So I hope that makes sense. We want to curate an experience for our clients that is second to none. Second to none. I don't think that anyone comes in trying to harm someone or do harm intentionally. But sometimes we do harm just by default because we haven't gone through what certain competencies are. We haven't dug deep enough. So I want us to dig deep enough. And I want to give everybody listening the opportunity to understand what some competencies within coaching are. I'm going to go a lot deeper into this moving forward. So if you follow the brand, you will see the shift into competencies when it comes to coaching, because this has been something that has just been recently brought to my attention more prevalently. So I'm going to share my screen as we move into the presentation. Again, my name is Sean Rais, and you are looking at the alien call. This is the alien call for leaders who are a little bit out of this world. So if you catch this now or you catch this later, we are doing this at 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning. Why? Because leaders are a little bit different than regular people. We wake up a little bit earlier. We do things differently. We think a little bit differently. And this was just one of the things that I began at the cusp of coronavirus and the initial event of the pandemic to give support and provide support, guidance, facilitation, and minor coaching to be of support and to be a support to a system that was shaking, to a system that was uncertain. So this is just this sprang from that, and we have been doing it ever since. That has not changed, and it will not change in the nearest future. So let me go ahead and share my screen so we can get into this. Essential coaching skills. I'm going to take myself off camera now so that we can get into the content. Enjoy. Essential coaching skills. What are they? What do they mean? What does it mean? What does it mean to be a coach? What does it mean to be a coach? What does that look like? Is it adding value? Is it motivational speaking? Does it imply motivational speaking? Is it giving advice? Is it counseling? Is it consulting? Is it providing support? Is it being there to support someone who's going through something? Is it guiding? Is it facilitating? What is this coaching thing? Is it sports related? Is it for finances? There's a coach. It seems that there's a coach for every single thing right now. There is a massive, massive uprising, if you want to say, in the coaching world. Everybody appears to be a coach. They So one thing about coaching that's different than counseling is that coaching, or different than psychotherapy, is that coaching is largely unregulated. It is largely unregulated. So it is kind of self regulated, which is why you hear everybody saying, I'm a coach, I'm a mindset coach, I'm a this kind of coach, I'm a that kind of coach, because they can do that at this stage in the game without having qualifications of a professional nature. So everyone doesn't have to be certified to come out and say that I'm a coach. Whereas if you went to go see a psychotherapist, that would be largely regulated by the American Psychological Association. So people will have gone through 4 to 6, not even 4, but 6 to 8 to 12 years of college and higher level education to learn what it means to counsel, to learn what it means to work with individuals who may have mental, behavioral, and have gone through traumatic issues in their lives. It's a little bit different. So, one thing that's different is that counseling and psychotherapy tend to move back into the future and look at what happened to you, and coaching has a future focus. So they look at what can happen for you and what's happening within you. So there, it's more goal and action oriented as opposed to traumatic and deficits based. So some words you'll hear within the realm of coaching from someone who really knows it is deficits perspective, strengths perspective, evidence based. These are terms used to differentiate counseling from coaching. Counseling takes usually a deficits perspective as and goes through a biopsychosocial model of what happened to you during different stages of human development. Whereas coaching looks is more of a future focused goal and action oriented model, looking at the future, what your goals are and where you're trying to go. Does everybody follow that? Just put it in the chat if you understand what I'm saying and if you're following the line of content. Does everybody understand this? I want everybody to be clear on this. I don't want there to be any misunderstanding. We're moving into a different space. It's going to be less, maybe a little bit less animated and more deep on the content, more deep on the information. Okay, because we want to make sure that we are providing the impact that we need to. So, like I said earlier, in this space, there is a lot of mindset on income. Income. How do we build the income, grow the income, get the money, sustain the profit? While we're doing that, we want to make sure that we're not omitting or forsaking the impact, the meaningfulness, and the quality of services. So let's get into this. With no further ado, we're going to move into this space. Coaching skills first. So coaching skills are the qualities and actions that focus on helping individuals improve performance. So coaching is performance related. Here's that language. Rather than focus on deficits, coaching skills aim to pose probing questions in order to guide others towards improvement and learning through teamwork, positive leadership, and strengths. So let me state this from the outset. And you probably know this about me. If not, you will through the content and if you follow the brand. I am not your typical coach. I am not what many people would refer to as just a life coach. I have certifications and trainings as a life coach. I can fill that void if need be. I specialize in business and leadership coaching. I specialize in business development, organizational development, and change, and specifically leadership coaching. Now, branding and branding development are a part of that because as an effective leader, you want to be a brand. You want to be synonymous with your form of leadership. People have to know that they trust you the same way that you have to know that you trust a brand when you go looking for something from your home. For your home, for your car, you think of brand, you think of there's words and companies that in your mind are synonymous with trust and good service, genuineness. This is the same thing as an employee who may have a worry or concern on their job and they look for the leader or the manager that they trust and respect. That manager or that leader has established a well curated and qualified brand. So this is I'm showing you the interplay and the dynamics of integration between branding and leadership. Does that make sense? Does everybody get that? Somebody put it in the chat if they understand what I'm saying. Okay, good. Now we're going to move. We're going to move from there to the next stage. I just want you to understand what coaching is. First, let me give you a definition of what coaching is specifically. If you have a pen and you're a coach, or you're interested in coaching, or you're interested in getting a coach, write this down. Coaching is a future focused, goal and action oriented process. So it is a future focused, goal and action oriented process. Emphasis on action and emphasis on process. So if you have a coach and there are no goals set, you might want to question the validity of the coach's position. You might want to ask, where are the goals? What actions are you asking me to take? If there's more of a conversation as opposed to consideration of the future and how to improve your performance and the qualities and actions that are focused in that area, then you may want to take a deeper look into the itinerary or the resume of the coach. One of the skills in coaching we're going to go into right now is called building rapport. So as a coach, first, you want to build a rapport with the potential client. And this is where a lot of people get their messaging mixed up. They get their messaging mixed up because they're not looking for the meaningfulness or the impact. They're more concentrated on the money and the income. So now you've got someone who says that they're coaching or they're a coach doing some corny salesman stuff or marketing tactics and ploys to acquire customers, and that may tarnish the good state that coaching should be viewed in, or the professional state that coaching should be viewed in, which is why I instruct my clients or coach my clients in an approach of marketing, because it is a business that still gives coaching and gives them and their brand a good name. Because you can easily, so let me say this, you only get one time to make a first impression. So when someone appears to be thirsty or super aggressive or anxious based on the sale, that can give coaching a bad view, a bad rap. And then when someone else who is qualified, who does have certifications, who may have some degrees in coaching, when they present themselves as a coach, they're looked at in the fool's light. And the fool who came before them, they put a certain light on coaching, and now it's giving the whole profession a bad name. So I just want to make sure that we are on one page as far as what it consists of and what those competencies look like. One of those competencies is building rapport. So you build rapport when you develop mutual trust, friendship, and it should say and or affinity with someone. Building rapport can be incredibly beneficial to your career. It helps you establish good interpersonal relationships, and this can open many doors for you. You want to be able to establish or develop mutual trust. Remember when I was just giving the analogy to the manager or the leader in the organizational setting? Your client, the person who reports to you in an organizational setting, or your client, your paid client, has to feel that they can trust you before they tell you their issues, the issues that they need help with. So if I'm a coaching client, and I am a coaching client of multiple high-level, high-performance individuals and brands, in order for me to disclose or self-disclose, be vulnerable in any space whatsoever, whether it's professional, personal, whatever that looks like, I have to be able to know that I can trust the person that I'm speaking to. So they have to be professional. They have to be professional, and I have to know or feel like I can state my truth and not have my truth stated as soon as I leave the building. I have to feel that I'm speaking to one person and not to everyone the person knows. So there's a thing called confidentiality. Confidentiality. You want to hold yourself to a high level of ethics. That's another word that is not commonly used outside of formal coaching. So in formal coaching, you hear about ethics, you hear about confidentiality, you hear about boundaries, barriers, all of those things within formal coaching. Outside of it, sometimes in this internet space, you don't hear that word at all, nor do you see its effect. What you see is people kind of pandering, pandering or panhandling for attention. And it gives the profession a very interesting perspective, a very interesting look that makes formal coaches or people who are educated in evidence based coaching look upon the non formal co option of it as being a bad thing. So I'm trying to bridge a gap between the two and bring a little bit of evidence based practice and competence to the informal presence and practice. So let me say this. There is a connection or a bridge between theory and practice, and that is called praxis with an X. Praxis. So what I'm telling you right now, or telling you right now, would be praxis. It would be taking your existing practice and acquainting your practice or way of behavior and movement in this space, and it's connecting it to evidence based theory and best practices. So we don't want to just build the money or build the bank account. The bank account building comes as a direct correlation of properly and effectively establishing rapport. So rapport comes before revenue, or at least it should. That is an essential coaching skill. Again, this is why a lot of people are not getting clients, because all they're thinking about is the money and the coin and the yen. They're not thinking of establishing the rapport. They see people as a purse or people as a means to pay their bills, as opposed to a genuine individual. And when you do that, people do not trust you. And you wonder why you live or exist in the realm of crickets when it comes to your business. And it is because no one trusts someone who's knocking on their window while they're driving down the highway. So we want to bring some credibility. We want to bring some confidence and competence to this profession, because there are going to be more people entering the space. Connections. Effective coaching practices can be considered a personal and professional discovery process. There's that word again, process. A lot of non-formal coaches use the term discovery call, get on a discovery call, discovery, 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 but they're not really trying to discover or build a connection. So in coaching, we establish connections. Effective coaching practices can be considered a personal and professional discovery process. Coaching is a learning experience that empowers individual enhancement of insights and capabilities. The development and reflective activities come from the heart and quality of the coach and serve as a path for the coachee or the client to grow and build self-confidence. Let that sink for a minute. The development and reflective activities come from the heart and quality of the coach and serve as a path for the coachee to grow and build self-confidence. The depth of collaboration. The depth of collaboration is driven by the coaching relationship, along with strong use of active listening connections. Active listening. One of the main qualities and strengths of a coach is not talking, is being quiet and listening. Listening twice and speaking once, or not at all. And then you heard the word, or heard me say the word reflective. That means thinking, that means contemplating, that means critical thinking after actively listening. This process embraces an educational and psychological approach to increase skills and abilities to influence others, as well as develop new competencies at all levels of leadership. So you heard the word process, you heard the word reflective, and you heard the word active listening, as well as influence and the increasing of skills. It is not a seminar. It is not. Okay, so let me give some definition to different terms. If you got a pen nearby, you want to write down mentorship, coaching, and consulting. Mentorship and mentoring denotes experience. Experience. So this is why on a job, they will have a mentoring program in place where introductory level employees or even management level employees are fitted or paired with those who have more tenure or experience in the organization, because they're being considered for movement up the ladder of the organization. That is within a succession planning scenario. Mentorship, experience. Consulting comes from expertise. So you seek the services of a consultant when you need someone who knows exactly what to do, someone who is skilled in a specific skill set or science. You bring in a consultant. A consultant is also a specialist. They're going to listen to what the problem is, make an assessment, make a diagnosis, and then make a recommendation for action to correct the problem as a specialist. Coaching, on the other hand, coaching is encouragement as well as enlightenment. It's a little bit different. So you've got the mentorship with the expertise, with the experience. You've got the consulting with the expertise, and you've got the coaching with the encouragement, as well as the exploration. Exploration. So a coach helps you to explore certain areas that you may be leaving underdeveloped. Coaching is more explorative as opposed to presuming expertise or having long-term experience. I don't need to, as a coach, be a NASA scientist to coach a NASA scientist. Now, if I was to come into the organization as a consultant to a NASA scientist, then I better know the science that we're dealing with. And if I was a mentor within the context of a NASA science plant, then I need to have experience being there to show the other person the ins and the outs. Coaching is completely different. Does everybody understand those three? Did I make that effective for the people that are able to get on the chat? The people that are in the chat, do you see the difference between these three? They are not the same thing. So as a coach, we may have some experience in some things. We may have some expertise in these certain things. But as a coach in the coaching space, it is more of a client exploration and discovery process. Good. This is how we establish connection as opposed to domination or overbearing influence or overbearing presence. And then here's one that is really kind of lost within this space. Empathy. Empathy is widely needed within the counseling space, and many times it is omitted completely within the coaching space. Empathy is the ability not only to comprehend another person's point of view, but also to vicariously experience their emotions. Without empathy, other people remain alien and opaque to us. When present, it establishes the interpersonal connection that makes coaching possible. So you have to be able to put yourself in the Coach E's shoes and state of awareness. So as a business development coach or business coach or branding coach in those capacities, when I begin to work with a person who is trying to make sense of their gift and they don't know how to monetize their gift or communicate their gift to make it seemingly relevant in the marketplace, I understand. I understand what that looks like. Now, here is an individual that may have 20 years in leadership, may have 20 years in a specific skill set or competency, but when it comes to business, they're not used to marketing their own skills. They don't even know how to present themselves. This is not a resume in this market space. Your resume doesn't get you here. Something else gets you here. And the person who has been in the context of someone else's organizational setting may not know how to market themselves. I understand the confusion. I understand the fear and the anxiety of being able to bring money home, especially in the context of this pandemic and economic uncertainty. It's very important that we are able to, as professionals, make our dent in the professional market space in order to bring a viable income home. And we may have the skill set, but we don't have the ability or the know-how to properly market. I have empathy for that. I understand completely what it feels like. And that's what allows me to establish an interpersonal connection with my clients that makes coaching actually possible, as opposed to advising or giving a lecture or a speech to. Okay, so when you coach as a leader, again, reiterating what I just said, you don't need to be the expert. You don't need to be the smartest or the most experienced person in the room, and you don't need to have all the solutions. This is why some people are feeling like, oh, well, I don't know, I can't do that. I'm not qualified to be a coach. So let me read this again. When you coach as a leader, you don't need to be the expert. You do not need to be the smartest person in the room or the most experienced person in the room, and you don't need to have all the solutions. But you do need to be able to connect with people, to inspire them to do their best, and to help them search inside of themselves and discover their own answers. So in my process, we go deeply into the origin brand story, and I help my clients to discover and excavate the strengths within themselves, the resilience within themselves, the brilliance within themselves, the unique qualities that position them uniquely in the marketplace and edify their genius, their talents, and their expertise. not my own, but their own from their experiences. Does that make sense? Has this been people's experience with me? In the put that in the chat if you understand what I'm talking about. We don't go into I may self-disclose a little bit that I have been through to inspire that which you have been through and make the connection and make the bridge, whereas you overcame in many ways that I have overcome, and then we together, because coaching is an alliance, walk into a space of your known competency. Now you're confident in the competence that you bring to the table, as opposed to being unsure of how to voice it or really put a name to it or put a finger on it. Now you are able to discover your own answers. That is the job of a coach, to have empathy and to live in the space or put themselves in the space of their clients so they truly, truly understand. They're in the context. And then they use critical thinking skills to build their way out of that. And they shine a light as a guide. So a coach, and you can write this down, a coach is more of a guiding and facilitating influence or presence. Facilitative. We do not do your work for you. And this is where a lot of clients, and I put this on the coaches. It is our fault, or it is the coaches who have done this. It is their fault that make people think or make clients believe that when they work with the coach, they're just going to get results by default. You don't get results by default. You get results by doing the work. See, coaches do not come to coaching to sit in the passenger side while the coach drives the car. No, the coach is in the passenger side while the client drives the car, and the coach is like a GPS system. The coach informs the client, you don't want to go down that block. There's some things down there that you don't want to see. Your skill set, or they even ask more questions such as, how soon do you want to get there? Because you can take the long route and see more of the sights, or you can take the short route, but the short route might put a little bit of wear and tear on your car, so you're going to want to do some other things to support your sustainability while you get there in a shorter amount of time. That's what that looks like, a GPS. Strategic questioning, write that down. Strategic questioning. Open-ended questions that require a more definitive or elaborate or extended answer and discovery process on the part of the client. A closed-ended question is a question that begins with, do you? Or have you? Because do you or have you ends with either yes or no, whereas an open-ended question such as how, or maybe what, such as what was the experience that happened 2 years ago when you tried to do this before, that requires a definitive answer, a more elaborative and explorative answer. So the client is revealing and discovering things about themselves through the answering process, as opposed to just saying yes or saying no. So open-ended questions are a tool within the resource kit of a competent coach, as opposed to more delineated and definite closed-end questions that require the answer either yes or no. There's no exploration there. There's no explanation there. There's no discovery there. There's no elaboration there. There's no exploration there, which means there is no growth. This is a skill set. This is not a hustle. It's not just a money maker. So you're learning, if you're listening, you're learning essential coaching skills that differentiate the hustlers from the tradesmen. Foundation setting is a process in real coaching. Foundation setting clearly communicates the distinctions between coaching, consulting, psychotherapy, and other support professions. That's what I just did when I gave you the 3 definitions of mentorship, consulting, coaching. It's very important that we do this with our clients from the beginning, because if we do this and we are good at assessing, and we honestly and genuinely with integrity assess, then we can determine whether our clients really need a coach. And you'll hear me sometimes laugh, and I'll say something like, you might not need a coach, you might need a couch. But it's a very serious thing, to which I will never take on a client that seems to have mental health issues if those mental health issues are not being addressed. And before I will take on a client whose mental health issues may be addressed, are being addressed, I want to see or confirm the fact that those mental health issues are being addressed. So there's nothing wrong with having a therapist, but there may be a client who's looking for coaching when they really need a therapist, and they don't understand the difference between the two. And some coaches may prey upon this mindset or this understanding and say, "Hey, yeah, you don't need therapy. All you need is to work with me." And that's not ethical. Some clients are in the wrong place, looking for the right thing. They're looking for the thing that's going to make their lives better or make more sense out of their lives. And coaching may not do that. Coaching is not psychotherapy. It is not meant to be psychotherapy. There are some psychotherapists who have a coaching practice. There are some coaches who have a psychotherapeutic background. I am also licensed as a clinical counselor. I have a counseling background. So there are some areas where I can or could if I chose to. However, I do not. That is not my specialization. That is not what I do. And I refer out. And I have told many a person who was looking for coaching, this might not be the right fit. You may actually need to look for therapy first for stabilization, because it seems like what you're going through is more emotional and maybe trauma-based. They need to see a specialist in that sect or that skill set. That's not my skill. That's not what I choose to do. I may know how to do it, but it's not my skill set. It's not my chosen discipline. My preferred discipline is performance and augmenting performance, business performance, leadership performance. So before I will take on a client who has those issues, I will make sure that they're speaking to the right professional for those issues and getting them dealt with. And then we can move into a coaching space. And it's very important that you, as a coach or an aspiring coach, know the difference and are ethical and don't do anyone harm just to help yourself. Does that make sense? Does everybody understand the differences and what your obligations are as an ethical purveyor of professional services when you come across a client or a potential client who may be trying to give you their money, but their money doesn't really belong to you? All money is not green. All money is not green, and some money should be deferred in preference of ethical practices. Coaching presence. Coaching presence is the ability to be fully conscious. Fully conscious. Let me say that again. Fully conscious. I can't say that enough. Fully conscious. And create spontaneous relationship with the client, employing a style that is open, flexible, and confident. Coaching presence. We talk about this in branding because presence, persona, positioning is everything. How do you position? What is your presence? What is the affect? What do people feel when you walk in the room? What is the tangible feeling that people have when you walk in the room? Are you truly 100% present? Because if not, your client's going to say something and you're going to miss it because you're checking your texts. And in this space, we're doing a lot on Zoom. We're doing a whole lot on Zoom. So while we're on Zoom, and I've said this before, we bring our work habits to our business. So in a business where you may be listening to a presentation and maybe your screen is off or on and you're under the table with your phone texting back and forth or listening to beeps and pops going on in the office, in the coaching space, that's just not acceptable. Unless you're giving an open presentation or you ask permission or inform at least of what you're doing and why, because you have to be fully present. Because if you're not fully present, you're going to miss the ability or miss the opportunity to impact. And that ties into the next piece, active listening. Active listening, the ability to focus completely. Focus completely on what the client is saying, and more importantly, in some instances, what the client is not saying. To understand what is said in the context of the client's desires and to support client self-expression. Active listening. I have an emotional intelligence coach that I work with, and she always says you want to listen with the heart and not so much the head. So that's where the sensitivity comes in, the introspection comes in. In order for you to listen with your heart, do you know how much focus and concentration that would take? As opposed to just hear with your ears, because a lot of times we hear what we thought we heard, but what we thought we heard wasn't what somebody said, or it wasn't what somebody meant. And sometimes your clients won't be the best, they won't have the best vocabulary, nor will they be in the right state or understanding of self-awareness to translate what they mean in the most effective manner. So then it's upon us to be detectives. And to be competent, confident, and coherent enough to truly infer, catch, and receive, absorb what is stated that was not stated. And then the best practice is to restate for clarity. So I'm hearing you say that X. Let me see if I've got this correct. The way I receive that is boom, boom, boom. And then the client either confirms or denies your interpretation of what was said. In order to support the client's self-expression. So you're educating them at the same time. Your exploration for clarity has to be succinct. That is our specialization. We have a specialization in presence and listening and focusing and being present and fully conscious, creating relationships, employing a style that is open, flexible, and confident, and interpreting what is being stated and then reflecting for clarity and supporting. It's different than what a lot of people think. It's really different than what a lot of people think, and it's very important that we understand this, because this may be some reasons why some people's businesses are flourishing while other people's businesses are dwindling. Foundation setting. If your foundation is not strong, then you won't be able to build anything. Or what you build will be built on sand, and it'll be easily blown away. Strengths perspective. Strengths-based coaching. Strengths-based coaching is a coaching perspective that is based on one's strengths as opposed to one's deficits. So someone may come to you and say, oh, well, I've been through this. I dropped out of school at this place and I got this many children and my marriage might not have worked and I'm out of a job and, I got some savings and I've worked here for 15 years, but they laid me off. And, the clients are going to primarily lean towards their deficits. They're going to talk about what they didn't do, what they want to do in the context of goal setting. Sometimes they won't notice or amplify or magnify their strengths. They might not even be aware of their strengths. Then you've got the other clients that only know their strengths and talk about how much they've done, how much they do, how great they are, and they might not recognize their weaknesses. That is also a coach's specialization, seeing gaps, identifying gaps. So one of our skill sets is reframing, cognitive reframing. We reframe people's perspectives. We redirect and we help clients to see what they don't see. Become aware of what they don't know. Mainly in context first, I won't say mainly, but I'll say initially about themselves. Self-awareness. We increase individuals' self-awareness. This leads or lends to leadership, confidence, competence, and success. Leadership, confidence, competence, and success. Because if you don't know yourself, you can't know anyone else, and you can't know anything else. So you know how to do something in direct correlation to how much you know about yourself. And the more you learn about yourself, the more you can express yourself successfully in any endeavor. Remember that coaching is a future-focused, goal and action-oriented process. Emphasis on action and emphasis on process. I cannot state that enough. This is what's going to have the client not looking for you for their results, because you put the emphasis on their action and you let them know that it's going to be a process. I don't work with people for less than a year because I don't believe in a purple pill. I don't say, hey, you take this purple pill and your business is going to be on steroids. It just doesn't work that way. And anyone who says that might not be the most ethical. Emphasis goes on action and emphasis goes on process. Strengths-based coaches help the client to set goals that are within reach. Let's say that one more time. Strengths-based coaches help the client to set goals that are within reach, conducive to growth and stretch. So the goal is definitely attainable. There's a SMART goals model. Most people are probably aware of it on this call. If not, write it down. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timed. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timed. Strengths-based coaches help the client to set goals that are within reach, but are conducive to growth and stretch. So they're not easy, but they are within reach. Therefore, strategically priming growth in confidence and in competence, because we help people to realize that they are capable of doing things that they may not have seen themselves as capable of doing. Therefore, we prime them for growth in confidence and competence by giving them win after win after win after win after win after win after win. These are just some essential coaching skills that I wanted to, it was on my heart to explore, and explain, because there is going to be a more heavy presence, even though there has been a heavy presence, a more heavy presence than prior to the onset of the pandemic and coronavirus. But with its seeming resurgence, there will be more people coming into this space talking about who they are and what they do. And it would be good for the qualifying body, the organization that is evidence-based coaching, for those practitioners coming in to be well versed in what coaching actually is. So I know this has been a little bit different. And as we move forward, we're going to move a little bit more into the foundational principles of coaching, because you can't build a brand when you don't have a business, and you can't build a business on something you don't know. So sometimes it's well, not sometimes, all the time, it is most important that you develop competence before you try to develop confidence. Because you might be making, you might not be putting your best foot forward. You might not be putting your best foot forward. And you can make some money, because most clients won't know either. So you'll be hustling, or you'll be shooting in the dark, and you'll be hitting some targets, but it won't be sustainable. And I want you to have a sustainable brand and develop a sustainable business so that you can get money today, money next year, money in 5, and money in 10, and with a sound reputation, because your brand is your reputation. So when you hurt that, you have nothing. And believe it or not, this community is small, and everybody knows each other. This community is small, and everybody knows each other. So when you do something that is unethical, whether it's uninformed or not. So what do they say? Ignorance to the law is no excuse. Ignorance to the law is no excuse. You just say, oh, well, I didn't know. Well, still somebody got hurt in the process of you not knowing. So whether you knew or not, you're still held responsible and accountable for the harm that you inflicted, for the money that you took, for the promise you didn't make, or the promise that you broke, the implied service that you were unable to provide. All right, let me stop the screen share, and let's have some conversation. Any reflections? Any comments?
Conversation.
What are your thoughts?
I feel, gosh, I feel like you nailed it on the head with this, because I think that as a coach, we are viewed in more than one light. I feel that we as coaches definitely have to identify who we are, what we do, and what we're about from the beginning. Set that foundation. As you speak of foundation, that foundation should be set so that the client knows what to expect from us. And then we can know how to help them with their expectations and goals. They know exactly what we're working with. They know exactly what we're doing, and then we can work together. I think that it gets misconstrued a lot on what coaches do. because there's so many that do so many other things, besides
Yes.
just coaching. So I think that this actually nailed it down on the specifications that a client can look for when they're looking for a coach, and be able to ask that coach specific questions that pertain to the coaching practice and what they themselves is looking for, as far as support and guidance. I think the GPS part was the funniest part for me because I was like, yes, we are sitting in the passenger seat
Yes. Yes,
versus
we
doing
are.
all of the work. A lot of times I've seen clients that actually was like, so are you going to look for it? And are you going to research it? And I go, no, that's not my business. As part of
That's right.
yours,
That's right.
so let's set the goal on a time limit, of when you can do it. Let's mark what you're going to do, and then let's reconvene at a later date, to actually discuss what you've done. So
Exactly.
it works out better. It's a learning process. You
Yes,
can't grow
ma'am.
and learn if other people do the work for you. So I think that this was actually, it nailed it on the head. So for future reference, we are coaches, not consultants, and definitely not therapists.
No, not at all. Not at all. You'll be in need of a couch if you try to do that.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? Thoughts, ideas, comments,
Good
suggestions?
morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, Sean, for your wisdom.
Oh,
And
good
this was
morning,
a
Deshaun.
great, hey, this was a great review. Um, Lets me know that I'm still on the right track here. For the SMART goals that you mentioned, I've added an R to the end, so smarter or smart R goals, and the R that I've been taught is rewarding. So encouraging clients to reward themselves for the goals that they achieve
Very
gives
good.
them greater satisfaction. And I wanted to add that in there because I feel like that's important. I know it's been um, very, very good for me as I go through and accomplish my goals, like having a reward set for when I do accomplish that goal, and it actually, helps motivate the person and motivate myself to get it done. Um, I think the biggest thing that stood out to me, let me look back at my notes. I mean, all of this is good, but I really, really, really like the aspect when you mentioned the three: mentorship, coaching, consulting, for coaching exploration. That was I knew it, but it was nice to have that term like put out there as far as coaching being exploratory. Um,
Yes.
and I really like that. I really like that. So yes,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you.
I like definitely what you said about rewarding. We definitely have to reward ourselves, and we have to explain to the client that they have to reward themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
Yes.
a mission fought without recognized victories is just a mission fought,
Yeah.
and that looks like burnout. So in counseling, they talk all the time about counselor wellness, counselor wellness, counselor wellness, especially in our space where we're working with individuals who are going hard for fast results and big results in building a business. They will be prone to self-flagellation. They won't build themselves up, or they'll be so bent on building themselves up that they won't let themselves breathe or they won't let themselves be. So it's very important that we do reward ourselves. And to your other point, exploration is everything. Exploration is everything. We never want to assume that we know everything because that's when we really err badly. And we want to consistently look for what we don't see and look for what we don't know. The person who thinks they know it all stops growing immediately and begins to decay. Thank you so much for your insight. It's greatly appreciated. Anyone else?
I had a comment or insight and then a question. So when you were talking about the part about, being, I think it was the section when you were talking about the presence and being present, listening and all those things. And it's interesting for me, I've always said this for as long as I've been aware, that the gift of a really good actor, um, for me, it's like I've always seen the job of an actor is it's like the closest thing, and I want to make sure I'm careful with it. It's kind of like the closest thing to, I don't want to say not God, but it's like this spiritual capacity to be able to have this compassion and empathy when it comes to people, because one of the biggest things as an actor is to be present on stage with your scene partner, to listen in order to really allow the scene to be alive. There has to be an authenticity where you're in the scene, you're in the moment, and knowing what's going on in order to respond the way that you need to, and having the capability to, ask certain questions about your characters, including your scene partners. Like just the same steps. It's like they're so similar to what psychologists do, or therapists do, or what have you. So I just, for me personally, I find it interesting that I have not just that gift, but also as one who has certain uh, qualities, also as that runs in the same line along as a coach. So segueing into my question, for someone who's had the gift, or in certain factors, capacities, what have you, of a coach, but they may not be certified, or you don't have the certifications, or the years of training or what have you, but it's just been a gift for a long time. How would one really, I guess, hone in on the specificities of making sure that that's exactly where they fit? And do they need to I mean, of course, you want to build, the certifications and the value and all that stuff, get the education, to make sure you're good.
Of course, of
Would
course.
one need, with the certifications and all that?
What was the question? You
So,
didn't really state the question.
I'm sorry. So how would one specify that
Okay.
they have those gifts? They've been doing it it's like a natural innate ability to make sure that that's where they are. How would they specify exactly where they fit?
I would say training, first and foremost, continued education, second, which would go along with the training, but then also the listening. So ask people who you have spoken to and people who know you most, and then just become more aware of what they look to you for. So when you say specificity, there is life coaching, there is relationship coaching, there is wellness coaching, there is weight loss coaching, there is executive coaching, there is leadership coaching. There are a lot of different genres. There is business development coaching. There's a lot of different genres. So when you look at the different contexts or specifications, it would be good to listen to people and just listen to what they come to you for. Listen to what they come to you for. Listen to what's said and what's not said. Look at where they imply your expertise. And then also where you're most comfortable coaching or giving, having powerful, meaningful conversations that elicit action and facilitation. What do those conversations consist of? Who do they who do they include most often? Because there are youth coaches as well. And these are people who the youth may be drawn to for their openness or their genuineness or their affect that magnetizes the children and the youth around them, that they always seek them out. They may be more qualified to be a youth coach as opposed to a leadership coach. So self-awareness, growing your self-awareness would be the most, I think, sufficient answer to that question.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Like,
Anyone else?
yeah, I definitely like what you said um, about, really vetting and talking to the person, listening to the person before you take them on. I had a client who she said she had ADHD once we got going, so she couldn't meditate. I said, even for, maybe 2 minutes. She said she couldn't quiet herself that way. And we
Mm.
kept working, we kept working. And as we got to the end, it was a 6 week that I did with her. We came about 1 week out and she had an anxiety attack. She's like, "Wait a minute, aren't I supposed to have my business going? Aren't you supposed to give me the price on this and that?" I said, I'm like, "No, not at all." I said, "What I'm supposed to do is give you the tools so that you know how to move forward and get done." I said, "Do you feel like you have the tools?" "Well, yes, I do." I said, "Well, then it's up to you to, begin to implement them and, set your dates and move forward." But the other point that you made that I really like is you only work, for a year with people because 6 weeks was not enough with her, you know, um,
No,
no.
definitely not.
And I think, it gave her some type of anxiety, just the 6 weeks and cut off. But I let her know, any questions, anytime, you can always contact me. I'm right here, whatever you need, I'm still open. Even though we don't have this contract anymore, you can still hit me. But 6 weeks is not enough time. So I do appreciate that you said, this new model, is, the 6 months or a year. It makes so much more sense. And even moving forward 2, 3, 5 years.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. To set it up.
There is what is called the coaching alliance. The coaching alliance, and that is
Mm-hmm.
the alliance and relationship between the coach and the coachee. Coaching never ends.
See.
What coachees do sometimes, if the coach is not continually growing, is they outgrow the coach and they move on to another coach.
Yes.
Yes, when the coach is consistently growing, then the coach should always be in a position to affect positive change and elicit information or more introspective and more self-developmental questions to the client so that they can continue to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes good sense. And even if your coachee has maybe grown to your level or outgrown, you should be able to join hands, maybe do something together.
Definitely,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. So a lot of my partnerships are from or with former and sometimes continual clients. Yes, I definitely empower people to a position of assistance or partnership. No, all the time.
Yeah, this is great for clarity,
Hmm.
and moving forward. I don't mind referring out. I love that piece too,
Oh yes, you have to
because I
build your
know
network.
the therapy part, I'm not going to be able to do that. I don't want the liability of it. And professionals kind of look at you and they're starting to get upset too. So I don't want to claim to do something that's not really in my field.
Yeah, stay in your lane.
Mm-hmm.
We stay in our lane. That's one thing I learned a long time ago.
Oh, yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
Sean. I wanted to share something really quickly. And I'm glad you were talking about this today. Something happened what's today? Wednesday, Monday at work. Um, that really, since I've been on this journey and this path recently, especially more of self-awareness, I had a student, one of my students, express something to me, and I haven't been working with them long at all. And it's like at the end of the day, and randomly out of the blue, he says, "I love you, Miss Latrell." And I said, I'm thinking to myself, I mean, it warmed my heart because I'm thinking, I haven't spent that much time with him, with these students. And lately, the schedules have been kind of like we've been swapping classes. So I've been working with other students. So I'm
Hmm.
sitting here thinking to myself, okay, it put a smile on my face, but I'm thinking, what have I been doing? And this is elementary level. So I'm thinking, what have I been doing that has made an impact on him to speak that spoke to his heart and his spirit to just say that. And so when you mentioned being self-aware, it's like that's kind of really been sitting on me for the last couple of days, just thinking, this fourth grader just expressed this. What is it about me that I do with students that just bring that out of them? Because it's like that's heartwarming, that for me, it's like, wow, that's special. It was a fulfilling thing to hear him say that. I was like, wow, okay, that was random, but okay, what was it?
That's good. That's
and I
good. You
think about
probably
me
felt
compared to,
empathy and openness.
right. Yeah. So
Yeah, continue to lean in that awareness and just, be aware. Be more self-aware of everything that takes place, and your strengths will be recognized by those outside of you as well as yourself. A lot of times we may think or assume that we have a certain strength, but outside will confirm it or deny it. The outside world will confirm or deny.
Gotcha.
Very good. Very good. Anyone else? Questions, comments?
Hey, Sean, how are you?
Phenomenal. Good morning.
Good morning. I have to talk about the mentoring, the consulting, and the coaching. Like, I always knew that I was a mentor. Consulting a little bit, but I never really considered myself a coach, so to speak, until you actually broke that down. And it made me think of a few times that, I've encouraged people, or people have said different things to me and said, Coach, I really like how when you see something wrong with somebody, you take the time to find out what it is so they can have a good day, or maybe just get it out their system to have somebody to relay that message to. So I like that. I just never mentorship, because I'm always so on the technical aspect of it, that, when you have to lean into the empathy part and knowing your clients and everything. I do have that piece, but I have to go and lean into that a little bit more.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I just want to thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
And the GPS part, which was like Tasha said, was so funny, because I put in the chat, I was like, ooh, rerouting, because you're always, you're always rerouting us. You're always saying, go here, do this, do that. And I thought it was funny that I thought about the people that I, went through coaching before. They were always in the driver's seat, as far as, they'll give you the stuff and then they'll say, okay, I've done this for you. So you never really learn anything. You're just, it's like a copy and paste mode, if so to speak. So
definitely. Don't say any names, please.
I'm not gonna say any names. Gonna keep it confidential.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. But yeah, that's the difference between a evidence-based and economically driven coach.
Yeah.
There's a difference between the evidence-based piece, the educational foundation, the ethical piece, and then the economically driven. Those are different worlds.
Especially when they're taking your money just for saying, I'm a millionaire, or just to say,
Yeah, that's the economy. That's the economy, the economically driven. It's very important. See, this is what people don't understand either, and it's a part of that anxiety piece. They don't understand. They cannot frame abundance and affluence without anxiety. They cannot frame meaningfulness in the same context as money, or impact in the same statement as income, or profit and purpose and things of that nature, value and volume. They're driven by the economy as opposed to the personal economy. But when you open someone up in their personal economy, the money will come. This is what people don't understand. The money will come. The income will come, but you can't have your focus on the finances. You have to have your focus on the impact. You have to focus on the value, and the volume follows it. Volume follows value. Income follows impact. Money follows meaningfulness. People are putting the cart before the carrot. And this is why their business does not seem to go but so far. They may make money, but they lose reputation and they lose respect in the professional market space.
Or they can't handle certain things when it comes against them because maybe they are deficient in some of their issues within themselves. So,
okay.
All right, we're going to end on that note. I'm going to go. I'm going to mute myself. Y'all have a great night.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. Anyone else? Ideas, comments, statements before we close? Very good. So it is 5:28. We are going to close. This has been Sean Rai. So happy to serve you. So pleased. Just be aware of what you're doing in the marketplace and get to know this thing called coaching. Get to know this thing called coaching. It is a beautiful discipline. It is a respectable field, highly respectable, and the yield is proficient as well. So you can make money here, but please do not put the money first. Please do not put the income first, and please do not put the profit first. If you follow that and you dive deep into the competencies and the coaching conversation that is taking place right now, you will be successful. And I will continue to kind of lean more into this space to kind of pull people away from that which they perceive to be just a fast money thing, because this is not that and that is not this. All right. This has been the Alien Call. Tune in next week, same time, same place. Speak soon.